Okay, next, Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Executive Director's Report is in your packet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. I just want to point out a few different things. Our passengers per hour, which I know has been struggling, has gone up, but it's still down compared to last year, but it has gone up. We did have a few more complaints than this time last year, and our fare box revenue is down from last year, but still within the year, still within our budgeted amount. Paratransit also has had a few more complaints than this time last year, but overall we're still even. And we did have a couple entries this year compared to last year. On the second page, our cost per mile is under our benchmark, as well as our preventable accidents. And as you can see, the distance between vehicle failures is less than what we strive for, related to the fact that the vehicles are beyond their useful life, and we're still struggling to make sure that they are available every day to provide service. But our on-time performance is above our benchmark. We'll see how long that goes. I know last year we struggled in the low 80s, and we got it up to 90, but eventually this is 3 months in a row now at the 90%. We also have our state, local, and federal reports from the Backer Firm and Squire Patton Boggs included in the packet. Mr. Backer's here if you have any questions specifically on his report.
All right. Okay. Okay, Mike, have you got anything else that needs to come to us right now?
I do not. The conversations with Georgia Power took place after the report was submitted, but that's the latest thing that we have. I will add that Congressman Rob Woodall is going to be holding a transportation roundtable discussion this afternoon, 4 and 5 at the Metropolitan Planning Commission, and you are all invited to attend that. It is open to general public, elected officials, and the like, and I believe he's going to do an overview of precisely what's been happening with transportation discussions in the overall spectrum of Congress.
When and where?
4 o'clock this afternoon, the MPC conference room.
Okay. Next then, this is unit updates, and this is, of course, for information only, and we'll start out with ridership update. Grant?
All right, so switching gears a little bit, for those of you who missed the committee meetings, this ridership report is going to look a little bit new to you. We're trying something a little bit different. In this report, we're focusing on productivity, which is passengers per hour on our core routes. So not contracted routes such as the SSU routes, the downtown shuttles. It's really just our core routes. So what I've highlighted here is that the passengers per hour on these core routes has declined since last year at this time by 4.4%. That comes from 19.9 passengers per hour to 19 passengers per hour. Now keep in mind we had 2 fewer weekdays in August 2016 compared to August 2015. We see a much higher productivity on weekdays compared to weekends. So that 4.4% decline, it's probably a little bit closer to the break even. And on the graph at the very bottom, you'll see that the board actually set a target of 18 passengers per hour. I think this was done a while back, but we are still actually, if you're just looking at our core routes, we're 1 passenger per hour above that goal of 18. So when you flip to the second page, this is just for a better visualization, I guess, of our route performance, our core route performance. In the committee meetings, we talked a little bit about goal setting and the debate between routes that are designed for high ridership and routes that might have unfavorable conditions for ridership, but they serve areas that absolutely need transit. So over the next couple months, I'm going to be developing some goal-setting materials for the board, and we talked about potentially scheduling a retreat with the board sometime in early 2017 to discuss these goals, not just rider productivity, but also maybe financial goals and so on. So that's on the horizon. I'd be happy to take any questions. If you have any, the further back you go in this report, you'll see more details on how our routes are doing.
And then, as you look at it, and that where we wanted the 18% starting out at Silk Hope, that's where it drops somewhat from what we said we'd like to see. But there's got reasons for that, as was told to us in a previous meeting. Not all of those, but some of them.
Yeah, and when you look at, to that point, about half of our routes are above the goal, and about half are below the goal of 18 passengers per hour. And when you look at the way those underperforming routes are configured, literally just the route pattern itself, these are routes that have more loops and go into some interesting neighborhoods, just kind of doing a variety of different turns and such. Whereas the high productivity routes are, generally speaking, out and back routes. They're more linear. So I just wanted to point that out. There's definitely a correlation between them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for him? Any questions? Okay, next report is service delivery update. Curtis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Service delivery report is included in your packet. I can answer any questions you may have. Just want to point out on page 2 the paratransit ridership is up 7.6% for the month, 14.8% for the year. As we continue to manage that, it's definitely something that continues to go up.
Are we still doing the screening?
Yes. And then the water ferry was just up slightly from this month compared to last month. And as you can see on the same page, our carrying wheelchairs is down from last year, and bicycles are slightly down from last year. And if you look at page 3, to your point, Ms. Stone, is the certifications. So we had 25 new certifications in August of this year and 16 last year. 3 new certifications, and this month we had no functional assessments, where last year we did have 2, and we are continuing to go through. We would do more recertifications, but we continue to have so many new certifications that it just takes up so much time.
Back up a second to page 2. What's going on with cat breeding?
You know, it's an on-demand service that if people don't call and need it, then it's not utilized, and if they do, then it is. It's not
So we
something
can
that...
see wild fluctuations there routinely.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just one of those situations where when people don't want to, or not in a situation where they can't schedule a typical ride, they use the Cat Freedom. So it just depends on a lot of factors. And it's such a low number in itself, it's only a few hundred, that any swing can show a higher percentage than what it was thousands.
Does that become something that gradually fades away? Do we have more on-demand services available for people?
I don't think so, because it serves a specific purpose that, from my understanding, and Mr. Dawson, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that wasn't even available in this area until recently, a few years ago.
Yeah, this was where this is operated as a partnership with Yellow Cab. It was bid out, and we have minivans. They're the minivans with ramps, and it's an on-demand service. Whereas if you take paratransit, you may go from point A to B to C to D. When you take Cat Freedom, you go to point A to point of destination.
Right. It's more of a taxi. It's more
Exactly.
wheelchair-assisted taxi.
Exactly.
But with subsidized funding?
Yes. Yes.
Helen?
On the fixed route, summary report, this quality of service, I'm assuming this is because of the problems with the age of our fleet and the breakdowns.
Yes. Yes,
Because you're not
we're not
meeting-
even close to the 12,000 miles per failure.
Right, so.
Which is a high goal we set for ourselves, if you remember in the board meeting, a few board meetings ago, we talked about what the industry average was, which was 8 to 10,000. So we're really actually in the industry average, but we set a higher goal for ourselves than that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this just brings home the point that Bill was trying to make in that we need the information on these electric buses. We have got to have some replacement buses because it's hurting the organization. So I don't mean to put additional work on you all, but I certainly would like to have the information as soon as possible so we can vote on what we're gonna do with this bus replacement money as soon as possible.
Exactly.
Because it's clearly hurting us.
In that same chart, one of the things that strikes me is, if I remember correctly from previous information on this stuff, quality of service, the two quality of service items, and complaints and mean distance between vehicles, these are outside of what we would prefer them to be now, but previously they've been within the parameters we've had defined.
Yes, sir.
But the last item, on-time performance, was less than what we wanted it to be, and now it's actually better. We're doing better with on-time performance, and we're getting more complaints. I know you can't explain that.
Well, I mean,
Just-
if you
right.
read it, it's a lot of it is, it says mean distance between vehicle failures.
Well, that's one of them, but the
Right.
one above that is the number of complaints. The
Quality of service.
equal.
Right,
That's
okay,
also
gotcha.
outside of what we've defined as our standard. but
Gotcha.
Just an observation.
Okay, next item is system development update staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The system development update is in your packet, and if you have any questions, we have staff here that can answer them.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, I have to get to another function, so excuse me.
All right, last one is financial update. Terry?
Good morning. The financial update is in your package. I'll be happy to answer any board questions. Of note, through October 31st, we're slightly better than budget, 30,000 month to date, about 86,000 year to date. Staff is closely monitoring our fuel expense as prices are trending a little up, and also taking an extra look at claims paid on our fleet and workers' comp cases, because there's a cost driver there.
Now, is there a special, what company handles those complaints as workers' compensation, or is it strictly with one of our staff people?
We have two outside vendors right now. One is Key Risk from many years ago. There's one or two open cases, and then I think that the currents are through RLI, the workers' comp. Amerisure, sorry. Amerisure.
Helen?
I'm just curious, in your summary, your facts and findings, obviously our revenues were down, but so were our expenditures, which has helped us stay afloat.
Yes, ma'am.
What is attributing our expenditures going down?
Actually, it's cost containment based on available revenues. The most cost savings are seen in our maintenance department. We are working very closely with the maintenance department to ensure that parts inventory and equipment is only ordered when needed, and it has really shown the most improvement of any department cost.
Well, if we hadn't recognized the savings with our revenues down, we would have been in trouble. So I would like to thank the maintenance department for that.
And the revenue levels are fairly consistent and fairly predictable. So as an organization, we continue to look for opportunities to enhance revenues and contain costs, and we plan each month based on what we will see the cost that we are allowed to expend.
And were there any, you said that our claims went up? it
It
was
is-
greater than budgeted, almost $50,000. Was there one particular claim?
No, ma'am. It's multiple claims in both categories, and they occur as they happen. With the fleet, there's an automatic $15,000 deductible claim per accident per person, and with workers' comp, it depends on the third-party analysis.
Okay, so overall, we're meeting all of our obligations at this point?
Obligations as in.
Financial obligations.
Financial obligations within our net payments on the AP. There are some instances where our AP vendors are not paid with the 45, and it's dependent on our cash receipts each month.
Okay, and where are we now with the payroll issue?
Payroll issue was resolved with the August payment of the past due fourth quarter tax. Currently, the IRS and CAT staff are working on penalty abatement associated with the extraordinary circumstances of fourth quarter 15, and we expect resolution within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So by the next board meeting, we might know where we stand with all that.
As far as the penalties that have been assessed based on the fourth quarter payments, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we are predicting some more penalties.
It's hard to say at this point. We have been working with the IRS closely for the past 11 months. We're down to just the penalty assessment, and we're working to request entire abatement of that penalty due to extraordinary costs.
And it was my understanding you had a conference call on Friday.
I actually had an in-person meeting with
Okay.
the local reps, and all of the information that we discussed earlier in committee was confirmed, and we are waiting to hear back on the success of the penalty abatement request. If the local office is unable to do that, they are willing to assist us with the appeals process to move that up to a regional level, and it's our hope that we can get all of those penalties abated.
And one last question, do you think you'll be able to meet our payoff for the loan from the county on time?
Yes, ma'am. It's scheduled in the month when we receive the most transit tax in order to assure that we're able to meet that obligation.
And I was wrong, one more question.
Okay.
With the trade center, have we been able to get the money that we're owed from the trade center for the ferries up to this point?
They have been making payments, the last month we billed them and we received that.
We haven't received the most recent month's billing yet. We expect it usually comes in the last week of the month, so we expect it this week.
So how far are they in arrears?
There was a situation at the first of this calendar year where there were 3 outstanding invoices not paid, but since June, they have paid us within 30 days of being billed at the first of every month.
Okay, and as far as we know, the dock repair, they're gonna make their portion, is that correct?
As far as we know, you talking about the grant, the match?
Yes.
Yes.
We verified that
Jerry.
in their minutes.
Excuse me?
We verified that in their minutes, that they were gonna go.
Right, I knew it was in the minutes, but, you know, sometimes what somebody says, they don't always do, so.
And CAD staff and the trade center staff are working closely with the Georgia Department of Transportation on some funding also, and we haven't gotten any indication in those conversations that the trade center won't meet their match obligation.
And
Thank you,
in the
Mr. Chairman.
situation, the last monies that we just received just a few weeks ago, they went out to pay a number of those vendors that have been asking about it.
I'm not sure what monies.
Well, the monies, then you get a grant here just a few weeks ago and you started.
The 5307 was
Yeah.
awarded in August. At execution, we had earned over $1.5 million worth of operating assistance. That money was immediately drawn and used to meet all of the open vendor obligations at that time.
In August, but you still had some, do we still have some that's outstanding like in September?
At any given time, there are outstanding obligations. Our accounts payable is set to pay net 45, and when our cash levels don't allow that payment, it stretches to greater than net 45. So at any one day, we could owe accounts payable ranging from $500,000 to a high of $1.2 million, waiting on funding to be received to cover those payments.
And very shortly, the people where you have paying the complete part of the residential and business is due on November the 15th.
Yes, sir.
So we should
Yes,
be
sir.
getting a considerable amount of money since the budget has gone up.
Our November payment historically is the third highest of the 12 months. It may range between $700,000 and $900,000 as compared to, say, September, which was less than $50,000. So in order, December is the highest, June is the second highest, and November is the third highest. Unfortunately, we don't know what that payment is going to be until we receive it from the county tax assessor in November, but we're hoping it will be consistent with prior years and close to $800,000 or $900,000.
And even better if it's more than that.
Much, much better, yes, sir.
Yeah, because what happened is some of the, like commercial, there have been some increase in the assessments.
Yes,
so
we're hoping
that would
for
help us out also.
hoping for more than we got last year, yes, sir.
Okay.
Just a
Shall
question, under your fuel expense,
Yes, ma'am.
was that due to the higher cost of
Fuel cost per gallon is
Per gallon.
creeping up. You'll remember that for FY17,
Mhm.
we reduced the fuel budget to keep it in line with what we expended last year, plus or minus what we thought fuel would do, and there's not that large cushion that we have seen in previous fiscal years, but it is creeping up, and we're watching it in order to make adjustments elsewhere if we continue to be a little over budget.
Yeah, I would suggest that you continue to monitor it very
Closely, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Old business. Well, I'll be having something, well, it was suggested about getting a committee for the Denver project. And so hopefully then at the next meeting that if anybody has any suggestions on the Denver, and I've talked a little bit to our attorney about it. So if you have anything in that regards, please let me know, and then we'll just I'll add it to what I'll be discussing with you. Okay, new business. No new business? Okay, just before we adjourn, I'd like to thank our staff members, and especially Grant and Steve, ahead in our plant over on Gwinnett Street has done an excellent job, and we can see where Grant has put in a lot of time in getting that information that is important for us, and other staff members that have been doing really good. We appreciate that very much, and it's making a difference in the overall operation, yes.
And thank you all for your assistance during the hurricane
Oh, yes.
evacuation. You all were wonderful.
Wonderful.
So really appreciate that.
Yeah, and what Curtis, he and I had just a little talk about that, but I'm telling you, he went beyond the call of duty to do the things that the school buses failed to do, and for different reasons and all, but transporting those people from the bus stops to the Civic Center, and then going beyond that to take them to other places and to some shelters and all. Curtis came to the forefront on that and was able to put things together to make sure that our citizens were saved and provided transportation. And of course, thanks again, like I said, to the staff members who have done things, and also with Beverly, who helps and put things together a lot.
good job.
Thank you.
On that note, sir, I just want to acknowledge our operators. Our operators who drove up to Augusta to help the evacuation, drove back. When they got back, they continued to offer their assistance to shuttle people from the Trade Center shelter, and some of them without even going to look at the situation at their own house. And so our operators are real heroes in this. I would like to acknowledge them.
Yes, yes.
thankfully, we've got grace operators and what they're doing, because when we have the meeting every month, as usually can be said, is that what they give names of some of the drivers that help them in a lot of things, and sometimes when they talk to a driver, the driver tries to help them in a situation that comes up while they're on the bus. But they repeat things here at that meeting every month where we have the public and riders come to that meeting. Okay, thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
How's your feeling?
Good. We're gonna have a.
You okay? Yeah. Better?
You been doing okay?
Oh, yeah.